Got finished watching the vice presidential debate between two men who couldn't be much more different. One of them called Donald Trump a reprehensible idiot who shouldn't be president. And, it's difficult to prepare for a debate in general, but it's especially difficult when the other guy might blurt out that Puerto Ricans are poisoning our Halloween candy or women shouldn't be allowed to swim during menstruation. But he didn't do any of those things. In fact, both candidates were pretty darn polite to each other.
First of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. I agree, and I actually think I agree with you. I actually agree with Tim Walz.
What happens when the guy who wrote a best-selling book about integrity and working-class values decides to throw it all away for a shot at the White House? Jimmy Kimmel just showed us, and it ain't pretty. In just 4 minutes of brutal comedy, Kimmel laid out exactly how JD Vance went from calling Trump corrosive and dangerous to becoming what Kimmel called his emotional support animal. The transformation is so complete, it's almost like Vance got body snatched. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Remember when JD Vance had a backbone? Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel remembers too, and boy did he bring receipts. On his show, Kimmel excavated a treasure trove of clips showing the Hillbilly Elegy author's dramatic transformation from Trump critic to Trump fanboy. It's like watching someone delete their personality in real time. Kimmel had the audience in stitches as he played old footage of Vance absolutely demolishing Trump before his political career took off. This wasn't just mild criticism, Vance went full scorched earth on the former president. He called Trump noxious and dangerous, back when he apparently still had the ability to form independent thoughts. Look at what this guy used to say, Kimmel told his audience while showcasing the damning clips.
I like these better with Trump, I really do. I don't know that anyone's vote was changed tonight. Watching a vice presidential debate, and, it's difficult to prepare for a debate in general, but it's especially difficult when the other guy might blurt out that Puerto Ricans are poisoning our Halloween candy or it's like taking your kids apple picking. About halfway through, you're like, okay, you know what? This sounded like it was gonna be fun, but what's the point?
I agree with a lot of what Senator Vance said. Governor, I agree with you. I agree with that.
And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agreed.
Well, Trump is not going to like that at all.
Vance literally compared Trump's appeal to cultural heroin. Not aspirin, not even marijuana. Heroin. He said Trump was giving false hope to struggling communities and leading them to a very dark place. Those are his words. The transformation is honestly mind-boggling. Here was this Yale-educated author and Silicon Valley investor who wrote thoughtfully about the challenges facing working-class Americans, and now he's morphed into Trump's nodding bobblehead. The audience was howling when Kimmel pointed out the supreme irony. Vance built his entire brand on criticizing empty political opportunists, and now he's become the poster child for selling out. The guy who wrote an entire bestseller about authenticity and integrity is now the fakest person in politics. Kimmel quipped, "If hypocrisy were an Olympic sport, JD Vance would have more gold medals than Michael Phelps." But the real kicker came when Kimmel played that clip from 2016, where Vance sarcastically remarked about Trump, "He always tells the truth, just kidding." The audience erupted. That one clip perfectly encapsulated everything Vance used to stand for versus the Trump-worshipping persona he's adopted now. Kimmel didn't stop there. He dug deeper, showing how Vance once openly acknowledged that Biden won the 2020 election fair and square. In an old interview, Vance stated that he believed people would more or less accept Biden's inauguration. Fast forward to today, and he's singing a completely different tune, refusing to accept basic reality if it might upset his new political daddy. This guy has flip-flopped so hard he could qualify for the Olympic gymnastics team, Kimmel joked. His spine isn't just flexible, it's completely disappeared. What makes Vance's transformation so jarring, as Kimmel expertly pointed out, is that his entire career was built on being an authentic voice of the people. The best-selling memoir about his Appalachian roots and the struggles of the white working class positioned him as someone who understood real Americans and their problems. Now he's abandoned all that authenticity for political expediency. You know what's really sad? Kimmel asked his audience. This guy actually had something to say once. He could have been a bridge between different parts of America. Instead, he traded in everything he claimed to believe for a spot on Trump's vice presidential shortlist.
I finished watching the vice presidential debate between two men who couldn't be much more different. One of them called Donald Trump a reprehensible idiot who shouldn't be president. In some ways, you can't help but you kind of feel sympathy for JD Vance having to defend Donald Trump, who he himself openly denounced. He looks like all of their viewers. He looks like he... So they are now desperate to exploit any tiny bit of oddness they can conjure up. But Trump had good advice. He told him, just have fun. And you know what? It seems like he did.
But the true genius of Kimmel's takedown came when he compared Vance to a human prop for Trump. The late-night host pointed out that Vance has perfected the same glazed-over expression that Mike Pence maintained for 4 years, standing behind Trump with that vacant look, nodding along to every word no matter how absurd or unhinged it might be. It's like watching someone practice the art of not having thoughts, Kimmel said as the audience roared. You can actually see his soul leaving his body in real time whenever Trump speaks. He's perfected that Pence stare. That empty look that says, I've locked my dignity in a basement somewhere and thrown away the key. That vacant stare was just the beginning of Vance's transformation, but did you know this Yale Law graduate and Silicon Valley investor somehow developed a southern drawl that appears and disappears depending on which voters he's talking to? It's like watching someone get a personality transplant in real time, and Jimmy Kimmel wasn't about to let it slide. Kimmel absolutely torched Vance's rebranding efforts, joking that it was like JD woke up one morning, looked in the mirror and thought, you know what'll get me votes? Pretending I spent my childhood chewing tobacco while rebuilding carburetors. The audience erupted as Kimmel nailed the absurdity of Vance's overnight transformation from tech bro to MAGA poster boy. The late-night host seemed particularly amused by Vance's mysterious new accent. How does someone go from sipping lattes in Silicon Valley to suddenly acting like he's the lost member of Duck Dynasty? Kimmel asked, pointing out that Vance's southern drawl seemed to arrive like a free accessory with every Trump rally he attended. It's the political equivalent of that friend who studies abroad for a semester and comes back with a bizarre accent, except Vance never even left the country. What makes this metamorphosis so fascinating is how total it is. Kimmel described watching Vance's shift as watching someone trade in their spine for a loyalty badge. That's not just changing your mind on a policy or two. That's swapping out your entire identity like it's last season's iPhone. The audience couldn't contain themselves when Kimmel showed clips of Vance defending Trump's most nonsensical statements. Remember, this is the same guy who once wrote thoughtful analysis pieces for major publications. Now he's nodding along to whatever word salad Trump serves up, as if person, woman, man, camera, TV is the height of political genius. In one particularly brutal segment, Kimmel showcased how Vance has become an expert at defending Trump's rambling interviews. The comedian pointed out that the old Vance, you know, the one with critical thinking skills, would have torn these statements apart. Instead, new Vance stands there with a straight face, acting like Trump just delivered the Gettysburg Address when he was actually just listing random words he saw in his McDonald's wrapper. Kimmel didn't just point out these contradictions, he turned them into a masterclass on spotting political opportunism. This isn't normal flip-flopping, Kimmel explained. This is watching someone delete their entire personality and download a new one from the MAGA App Store.
Matchup with a series of mock debates. They had stand-ins for the moderators, and Pete Buttigieg played JD Vance, which is funny because JD Vance, he must hate the idea that a gay man was playing him. And wearing less eyeliner than he. I was kind of hoping they'd ask the candidates like some fun questions, like, you know, they used to do that, like, is a hot dog a sandwich? And then JD Vance would stare into the camera and say, when you're from Haiti, any dog can be a sandwich. Women shouldn't be allowed to swim during menstruation. But he didn't do any of those things. In fact, both candidates were pretty darn polite to each other. I kept expecting him to reach down behind his podium and come up with a corn dog and a baby pig. Walz and Vance, they stuck to the issues. They showed each other a lot of respect. It was very boring.
The audience was in stitches, recognizing the truth behind the joke. Perhaps the most scathing part came when Kimmel suggested scientists should study Vance for signs of political shapeshifting, adding that if you mapped his positions over time, it would look like a toddler's Etch-a-Sketch after espresso. It's one thing to evolve your views, it's another to perform ideological gymnastics that would make Olympic judges dizzy. What's particularly odd about Vance's transformation is how shameless it is. As Kimmel pointed out, it's not like Vance is trying to hide his past or claim he's always been this way. He's just acting like we all have collective amnesia about who he was just a few years ago. It's gaslighting with a side of political ambition, served fresh daily. The payoff of Kimmel's takedown came when he explained exactly what this kind of transformation represents. This isn't just changing your mind, this is trading your entire identity, principles, and basic dignity for a shot at power. It's selling your soul at a political yard sale and throwing in your self-respect as a free gift with purchase. While Vance was busy selling his principles for a shot at the VP slot, Kimmel was collecting video clips like a political blackmail artist. Ever watch those what you ordered versus what you got comparison videos? That's exactly what Kimmel did to JD Vance. Except instead of disappointing Amazon purchases, it was Vance's entire belief system that got the before and after treatment. Kimmel didn't just tell his audience about Vance's flip-flop. He showed them the receipts in high definition. Side by side, the transformation was so jarring, it felt like watching two different people arguing with each other. In one corner, the old JD Vance plainly stating, "I'm a never Trump guy and I can't stomach Trump." In the other corner, the new JD Vance nodding along to Trump's every word like a dashboard bobblehead on a bumpy road. The audience's reaction was priceless. Half gasps, half uncontrollable laughter as they witnessed this political Jekyll and Hyde act play out on screen. It's one thing to hear about someone changing their position. It's another thing entirely to see the two versions of Vance essentially having an argument with each other across time. Remember those public service announcements where they show a person talking to their future self? This was like that, except backwards, with future Vance betraying everything past Vance stood for. One moment that really got the crowd going was when Kimmel played the clip of Vance warning that Trump was leading his supporters to a very dark place. Cut to present day, there's Vance following Trump into that very same dark place, flashlight in hand, acting as the tour guide. This isn't just a normal politician changing his mind, Kimmel pointed out. This is a complete nosedive from respected author to starring in Bootlicker, the JD Vance story. The way Kimmel delivered that line had people wiping tears from their eyes, not just because it was funny, but because it was painfully accurate. You could almost feel sorry for Vance, except that he did this to himself. How do you defend yourself when your biggest critic is you from 3 years ago? Kimmel emphasized that Vance is desperately trying to rewrite his own history, comparing it to a deleted scene from The Apprentice, as if Vance is hoping nobody saved those old interviews. But as Kimmel so perfectly put it, the internet never forgets. In the pre-internet era, politicians could get away with dramatic position changes because nobody kept track. Now, everything is archived, indexed, and ready to be turned into devastating split-screen comparisons by late-night comedians with research teams. The real genius of Kimmel's takedown wasn't just showing that Vance changed his mind. Politicians do that all the time. It was exposing the completeness of the transformation. This wasn't a policy shift or a strategic realignment. This was watching someone abandon their entire value system live on camera. It's like watching a vegetarian not just eat a burger, but open a chain of steakhouses while insisting they were never vegetarian in the first place. Kimmel's most brutal blow came when he used Vance's own eloquence against him.
I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are.
That's how you get the single cat ladies back on your side. He had a serious haircut, too. It looked like somebody got out the Flowbee before the debate tonight. It's kind of like being Diddy's defense attorney, you know?
First of all, Tim just said something that I agree with. I agree, and I actually think I agree with you. I actually agree with Tim Walz.
See, that's the problem with being articulate. When you sell out, your previous words come back to haunt you with perfect clarity. There's no ambiguity in "I can't stomach Trump" or claiming Trump was leading supporters to a very dark place. Those statements are crystal clear, making the contrast with his current bootlicking all the more stark. What makes this particularly devastating is that Vance wasn't just some random politician. He was known specifically for his authenticity and straight talk. His whole brand was built on being the guy who told hard truths about difficult realities. That's what made Hillbilly Elegy resonate with so many readers. Now he's the poster child for political opportunism, ready to say literally anything if it might help him climb one more rung on the power ladder. In the end, Kimmel's takedown of JD Vance wasn't just a series of jokes. It was comedy with a purpose, exposing the naked ambition behind political shapeshifting. What makes it truly devastating is how Kimmel used Vance's own eloquence against him. The most biting part of Kimmel's criticism focused on what he called the almost poetic irony of Vance's transformation. Here's JD Vance, the once defiant voice reduced to nodding along while Trump bungles interviews. Kimmel told his audience, it highlighting how far the mighty have fallen. But according to Kimmel, the worst part isn't even the betrayal of principles. It's not even the betrayal that's most infuriating. It's the smugness, the way he walks around like no one's noticed. Vance's entire political strategy seems to rely on voters having the memory of goldfish. But thanks to comedians like Kimmel, those receipts aren't going anywhere.